rigid thinking. So, what I deal with a lot with the guests here at Rythmia is that they show up with a certain belief system, which again is very normal, right? We all have our belief systems. And some people, I've noticed a theme lately, are coming with a certain belief system that's very, very closed-minded and rigid. They're not that way now, but they come from that sort of history. And it can be anything from a political mindset, a cultural mindset, a religious mindset, community mindset, any sort of rigid sort of way of thinking that doesn't allow for other interpretation or other ways of doing things. And what I've learned by working with all these guests is that a rigid way of thinking that's not open to differences is often a fear-based approach. Because, for example, like let's talk about a religious belief system. Now, religious belief systems are meant to help us feel spiritually enlightened, help us feel connected more to the source of whatever you believe, whether that's God or the universe or just your own self or nature or whatever everybody believes, all different things, right? But what ends up happening for a lot of people in these rigid systems is that they kind of lose track of that, and they sort of miss that point over time, and they get caught up in sort of a closed way of operating with not only themselves, but with the world. And that leads to a lot of frustration for people because we're all on a path of progression. We're all learning, we're all growing, we're all trying to do the right things. We're all trying to help our families and we're all trying to help society. But if I live in a fear-based sort of rhetoric, or I feel that I have to think rigidly, because if I don't, then I won't understand outside things, and that's scary to me, and I won't be able to feel safe, because at the end of the day, I'm just afraid of death is what that all comes down to initially. And what's going to happen when I die? Am I going to go to hell? Am I going to be in limbo, in a purgatory? Am I going to go to heaven? Am I just going to die and nothing happens? Am I just going to fade into energy and be the soil? What's happening, right? So people have all these sort of concerns and these thoughts and these worries and all this sort of history of living and believing in a rigid sort of way. And I just use religion as an example. We could use that for government, for academia. In my field of psychology, there's a lot of rigid thinkers in the sciences. There's a lot of wonderful unrigid thinkers, but there's tons of rigid thinkers. You have to do it this one way, right? This is the right way. And I find that to be limiting, and I find it to be very boring, to tell you the truth. And so what I like is the openness of different interpretation and the belief system that everybody has, which we can all respect that and give it validity, for those people that follow that. And it's all good. But what I've noticed here is that people that have sort of gotten ahead of themselves with this sort of rigid thinking, it causes a lot of pain in their lives and a lot of disillusionment and a lot of hurt to not just themselves, but their families. And what they've gotten past before even coming to Rythmia, they've gotten past that, they need to be happy themselves. They have to be happy. They have to be aware of who they are. And they kind of know this coming in, which is really, really great. So then they get here. And what happens when they first do the plant medicine or the breath work or the yoga classes or all the different things we have here, they realize that it is just about them. Really, it is. Your own happiness is about you. And your own progression as an individual is about you. Now, we all work together in communities and groups and families and systems, and we all have these things together that we cooperate and kind of move along together in, which is all beautiful. However, but if I'm unsure of who I am, and if I'm sacrificing my own happiness constantly for the betterment of a rigid sort of belief system, it's not going to serve me at the end of the day. Now, people often ask me, because I was raised very religious and I still am, and they ask me, like, how do you feel about your religious beliefs now that you're running a facility that does plant medicine and is non-denominational here? but believes in all positive things and love and connection. I said, I'm more religious now than I've ever been. And the reason for that isn't because I've abandoned a bunch of thoughts or beliefs or teachings or anything like that. That's not the reason. The reason I'm happier and closer to my religious beliefs than I ever was is because now I actually like myself. And now I actually trust myself. And now I understand the priorities of self-care and taking care of who I am and being authentic with myself first. Because I can do that now much easier. And again, it's a progression of learning. I'm always getting better at it, hopefully. And sometimes take a few steps back. Absolutely. But because I'm doing that, I feel closer to spirituality, much, much closer. I feel closer to my family. I'm happier with people I meet. I'm not sitting in a position of sort of guilt, shame, or failed expectations. That's not a place I'm sitting in. I'm in a place of acceptance for me with all my imperfections, and also with the drive to improve and to become a better person, to become more aware, and become somebody that is honest and grounded and trustworthy, and all these things that I think are valuable character traits that we all try to strive for. So rigid thinking in any sort of context is based in fear, and it's based in not losing control over basically death or something that we can hold on to feel confident in who we are as people, because it's too scary to look to different views or maybe things that we don't understand, right? That's what that is. So at Rythmia, every single week, there's people going deep into realms that they don't initially understand, but then end up really understanding by the end of the week. And it gives a great deal of peace to people. And their rigid thinking is no longer imprisoning them in ways that limited their happiness and progression in their lives when they leave. And it's really, really exciting to see it unfold every week. So I welcome you guys down here. If you have a history of rigid beliefs, let's get you out of those rigid beliefs, and let's get you plugged into yourself and connected and grounded. You can believe and have the things that you want for yourself that bring peace and connection, and don't bring fear, that bring happiness. Pura vida. Thanks for watching. See you guys next Monday.